they'll come to a Ponderosa steakhouse because I give free refills on coffee and Coca-Cola. Or because of my terrific...
You had a tweet about Ponderosa, the very fine dining establishment that you and I both know and love. I'm assuming a lot of our listeners know about. And I felt like it was the perfect opportunity for an intro today, because it got me thinking a lot about buffets. And we don't have to go into this a lot. I want to talk specifically about Ponderosa, but I went down a buffet rabbit hole before this on the internet.
Been there.
A couple of takeaways. First of all, I did not realize until looking into this how many buffet restaurant chains are Western themed. That doesn't make much sense to me. Western Sizzlin', Golden Corral. I found one called Chuck-a-Rama, which appreciate the shout out there, but it was actually named after a chuck wagon, which I found was used for cooking on Old West cattle drives. And I have to share this story about the chuck wagon because it was really funny. And it is that they got sued by this couple. This was back in 2004, so it was a long time ago. This is when the Atkins diet was really big. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I never did it, but I know what you're talking about.
You know what? Yeah, I don't know what the hell it is.
They still sell frozen meals.
Do they?
Yeah, for the Atkins diet. So I see them in Walmart, which I thought it was like gone, but it's not.
Oh, well, there you go then. Chuck-a-Rama. Okay, I actually lost this. I need to pull it up again, but I'll cut that part out. So they had a controversy because they gained national attention in 2004 when at their Taylorsville, Utah location, a couple following the Atkins diet were kicked out for trying to go back to the carved roast beef 12 times. The chain stated that in their defense, although they are a buffet, they are not an all-you-can-eat buffet. Which, that's where the distinction matters.
I have never thought about that.
Now,
wow.
A couple of things about this is how closely are the staff at the Taylorsville, Utah Chuck-a-Rama watching people that they're noticing that this couple is going for roast beef 12 times.
Man, that is they must be hurting. I mean, if they're protecting that roast beef so much.
I think it's, first of all, it's absurd. This is America. And what is one of the most American things you can think of? A buffet.
Oh.
Okay, well, yeah, sure, though. I mean, I'm not going to disagree. But a buffet is one of the most American things that you could possibly think of. And what is more American than even that is using a buffet to engorge yourself and follow a fad diet at the same time. So I'm on the side of the family. I don't know. It's been 17 years since this happened. Hopefully they're still eating a ton of roast beef. But to the real question, or really the real topic, Ponderosa, what made you think of it? Okay, and for people that don't know, what is Ponderosa?
I think about Ponderosa at least once a day. And I'm not exaggerating. It's once a day. I love Ponderosa. Ponderosa is it's a buffet that was really popular between the 90s and like early 2000s, and then it just kind of died from there. There was a couple still remaining, but COVID's probably taken them out. But it was this magical place where when you walked in, instead of just ordering the buffet, you ordered an entree, and then, like the greatest restaurant in the world, you are so taken care of at Ponderosa that when you order this entree, you're not getting a salad for your side. You're not getting French fries for your side. You're getting an entire buffet as your side to your entree. It's beautiful.
I kind of look at it as the poor man's Texas de Brazil.
That's fair.
I had a different, I don't want to say different experience with Ponderosa. I was never allowed to order from the entree menu.
Oh, I did one time, and it was for my 12th birthday.
Oh, that's a big present.
It's massive.
that's exciting.
It's $20.
and $40 worth of food.
I can tell you the order. I could still tell
Okay.
you the order because it's
Let it
so
rip.
rare. I got the 10-ounce ribeye with a mashed potato and the bar.
That was a good pun, by the way. It's so rare.
Ooh, I got medium rare.
Yeah, well, that's smart. I wouldn't go full rare. That's only what animals do. So I like when you walk in, I got so much nostalgia when you post that picture because you walk in and it's almost like for me and you, excluding your 12th birthday, it's kind of like a tease because you walk in and they've got the illuminated menu of olden times where they've got these pictures that were clearly done in like a Sears Olin Mills portrait studio of steak meals. And you walk by that and you tell them, no, buffet, bitch. And then they give you the tray and you go and you get hammered on food. But I always walk past it. And sometimes my parents would be like, they would get the entree sometimes. I always wanted it, but last time I went there was maybe when I was like 10 and they're like, you're not old enough for a steak, which is hurtful to think about, but it probably was better for us financially if I didn't. However, I just remember walking in and God damn, it was so good. And it's not though. Like the chicken wings were terrible, but for some reason they were so good.
Don't you ever?
I'm going to stand by that.
I was literally about to talk about how good the chicken wings were.
Then let it rip. See, this is a new thing we're doing. We're teasing out on this show about when we disagree with each other.
The chicken wings
doesn't have to be politics. It can be fucking chicken wings at Ponderosa.
Had this massive, almost like a peppery aftertaste. It really got to the tip of your tongue. Unlike and growing up poor, like we only got to go to Ponderosa on like special occasions and stuff. And so
like the 12th birthday.
There is only one time a year. Well, I think we went like three or four times a year, but like there's only one time that I purposely would wear a jacket, a hoodie, and like jeans with the side zippers. And I'm talking, my birthday's in June.
When you said jacket, the first thing I thought of was like only on special occasions wear a jacket. I thought you were talking about a suit jacket, and you wearing a suit jacket into a Ponderosa.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they didn't make 18 Husky suit jackets at that time. They weren't as
You'd
inclusive.
be surprised. I knew some fat kids in suits.
Lucky. But no, like my birthday's in June. So me walking in with like, I'm talking, you remember the baggy pants with the on the side, they had the cargo zipper. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like, you could zip up your pants on the sides.
They were like,
and then,
they were like track pants or not. Well,
right. Kind of.
They weren't. But I know what you're talking about. They weren't like khaki or denim. They were like sweat.
Right.
I don't know, wind pants, what they called them.
And then I would have a I could still remember the hoodie that I would wear, and it had the zips like for your pockets. You could zip them up, and then on top of that, I had a Echo. Is that what they were? Yeah, an Echo jacket. And I'm telling you, June 22nd, when I rolled in, they knew it was me because when I walked out, I didn't walk out empty-handed. I walked out with 12 cookies, 24 wings. I mean, I was living the dream for the next day.
I'm surprised that you wore the same outfit because I would have just assumed that it had was just covered in grease stains from storing food in the pockets.
Have you seen any childhood pictures of me?
Fair point. Okay, fair point. You do bring up a good point, which is there is a certain attire for buffets. That's why they make this and I'll give credit to the great Will Diaz, who's an attorney in Houston, who was my law school classmate, who coined the term buffet pants, which is any pair of pants that has an elastic waistband.
I think he may have adopted it. He didn't coin that.
Well, that's where I heard it first. So I wanted to give credit where credit was due.
Okay, you can give credit like that. That's fine.
I'll give it. I'll dish it out, even though I can't serve it. I wore a buffet pants.
You serve yourself.
And thank God you do. That's the beauty of it too, really. I know I'm getting like real emotional here about buffets, but I wore the buffet pants in.
I'm going
well, especially because Ponderosa is only doing takeout right now. I looked it up.
If they're open.
I looked on their website, and the Parkersburg branch is still illuminated.
Ponderosa?
Yes.
Ponderosa
Ponderosa.
was torn down 15 years ago.
Well, then they need to update their fucking website.
Chick-fil-A
Because they
is there
still...
now.
I knew that, but it still says there's one there.
Trust me, if there was, I wouldn't be.
Oh, Ripley. Sorry. Ripley.
That's
temporarily closed.
It's closed.
Temporarily
Yeah.
closed.
It is
Temporarily,
closed.
but it could still reopen.
I ate there right before the pandemic hit last year.
There's also one in Moorfield, and it's open.
Looks like I have weekend plans.
That is a long ass drive, but it might be worth it if you're going to Ponderosa. There's also one in Calcutta, Ohio. That's temporarily closed.
Taylor, my wife gets really, really upset when I just pull into Ponderosa parking lots before talking to her about where we should eat. Because I have a rule that if I see one, I have to stop. Like if it's open, because to me, it's kind of like, well, I read this somewhere. I don't know if it's true. I think it is, though. I think the Pope has to stop at every Catholic church he sees.
Yeah, that's why he closes his eyes a lot if he's really tired in the car.
Right, he doesn't want to stop. And so that's like me, but I do stop at every Ponderosa, and I have to eat there. Now, if you don't know, Taylor's vegan. So
a little hard for Ponderosa.
But I will tell you
steakhouse.
Growing up, I always thought, because growing up we had a carport, and I always thought, the day that I own a garage is the day that I know I've made it. And I found that to not be true, Chuck. What the real day that I knew I made it was when I walked into Ponderosa and I said to myself, I can order any entree I want and put it on a special moment. Card.
It's a special moment. That really, really hit. And I'm going to just blow your mind here for a second. I don't even want to keep this in, but there's one in Portsmouth, Ohio. Ooh. It's open. And the Columbus one is also open.
There's one in Columbus. I go to Columbus all the time. How do I not know about this?
Yeah, I don't understand how you missed that. It's technically in Columbus, but it's on like the outskirts.
I don't really go that far.
It's like South Columbus.
I go to like Easton. So
God, I haven't heard Easton in years.
I go to Big Fun downtown. Big Fun. It's a great toy store.
Okay.
That's where I buy all that stuff.
Were you more Ponderosa or Bonanza guy? Because Bonanza is the other sister restaurant to Ponderosa, again, with all these damn Western themes.
Bonanza closed down when I was 6. Okay.
And so you didn't get to go there very much.
I didn't, but I do have a very traumatic story from Bonanza. Bonanza in Parkersburg, West Virginia, which is now the home of a Taco Bell. Okay.
And also worth noting, within spitting distance of your childhood home.
Right. And my local funeral home. That is very true.
Very fitting. There's a lot of joint events with those two places.
Very true. We do like to cater. We do cater Taco Bell there. And the big thing that I remember from Bonanza, I was 4 years old, and that was, funny enough, that was still when my dad was around. And it was like, I think this may, and I'm not making this up for like podcast jokes or anything. I think that may have been the last meal that I ever had with him. And that's not a joke. I swear, I think that's the last meal.
I don't know why I laughed, but
I think it's the last meal I ever had with my biological father. I swear, I think it is. We were in Ponderosa, and do you remember, or not Ponderosa, Bonanza? Did you go to Bonanza like when you were a kid?
I did a handful of times, yeah.
Okay. Do you remember? And this might be all buffets, but I specifically remember Bonanza and Ponderosa when they would bring the plates out that they just washed, and they were like the hottest thing you've ever.
Yeah, they're hot as fuck.
Okay, 4-year-old Big John didn't know that, right? And
4-year-old Big John, I doubt even cared.
Well, also, I wasn't supposed to be serving myself, but if you saw me like at 4 years old, I'm 4'11", 150. So, people aren't going to question me. I'm bigger than half the town of Parkersburg. And so here I am.
Well,
That's not true. I'm bigger, but not that big. I'm normal size in Parkersburg. um, but yeah, 4 years old. True story. I pick up this plate, and one of my favorite things at Bonanza were the meatballs. I love the meatballs. I would just pile those things on the plate. I would trash them down. Anyway, picked up the plate, put the meatballs on there. My family is across next to the crane machine, which had like little balls in it. I still remember that. It got so hot, I dropped my plate. It breaks everywhere. 4-year-old John has always been told that you pick up your messes, right? Like that's what you got to do. Well, unfortunately for me, glass cuts you. So here I am as a 4-year-old with a giant piece of the plate stuck in my hand. No joke, with meatball sauce all over me, right? And I'm just looking at it. I yank it out of my hand, blood everywhere. This place is packed. I mean, people are eating. I'm squirting blood just from my hand everywhere. And now I think I'm starting to understand why my dad left. I've never thought about this before. No, anyway.
Hindsight being 2020, if I were you, I would have kept it in so I could at least finish the meal.
I had a meatball in my mouth.
I meant in your hand, like the piece of, don't pull it out.
I didn't know that. How was I going to know?
I don't know.
Chuck, I literally just used the meatball spoon to feed myself.
I'm just saying, I never said that you should. I'm just saying, hindsight being 2020, maybe butterfly effect. Here we go again. Maybe your dad would still. Breaking new ground here today.
Oh God.
I think we should. All we can do is ask questions. I think our exclusive should be breaking down the right way to navigate an all-you-can-eat buffet.
I've got plans.
Agree or disagree?
Agreed. I've got.
You got plans for what?
No, like I have plans every time.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant you had plans for the exclusive.
Yeah, I got to be at Ponderosa.
That would be,
anyway,
man. $25 tier. You get a live recording.
You get a live feed of me eating Ponderosa.
Oh my God! If we did a live show to Ponderosa, I would lose my goddamn mind.
I'm only booking Ponderosas if we ever get that big. I will refuse to do a show anywhere else. Only Ponderosas. Only Ponderosas.
Well,
or I will settle for a Chinese buffet.
Okay, there's a lot more options with one of those, but
I love Chinese buffets.
Well, that's true. The thing about Ponderosa is it really limits our geography for where we could do a show. There is one in Florida.
We can do 12 shows a year to hit every Ponderosa.
There are like dozens in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, all throughout the Midwest, and then one in Kissimmee, Florida.
Ponderosa goes out of business. Big John is crushed, okay? Because, birthdays just aren't the same.
Where the hell are you going to go?
Where do we go?
Taco Bell,
turns out,
the pizza place.
You can't afford it. It's too expensive. $30 a pizza. Are you kidding me?
It's disgusting too.
You don't like pizza place?
I don't like the thick crust. It just didn't hit for me.
Oh, it hits hard for me. Anyway, Ryan's. We start going to Ryan's. There's one built on South Side near Walmart. It is, which is right up the road from me, which is
a reference to the South Side of Parkersburg, West Virginia, for our listeners that aren't familiar.
Yeah, on the South Side of a big city in West Virginia. And, I can tell you right now, we went there my brother worked there. Okay. And I'm pretty sure he only did it for the family discount. And
that's a perfectly legitimate reason to do it.
Every birthday, okay, we went there and they sang a song. And I tweeted about this because I thought about it. Waiters, waitresses, staff members of these restaurants are not paid enough to sing you songs for your birthday. Stop asking.
100% agree.
Stop having your family ask. It's annoying. The other customers don't like it. We do not care that it's your birthday at all.
I hate it. I couldn't give a fuck if it was your birthday.
You become the worst person in the restaurant. And I know that your family probably asked for it, right? But by association, you are the worst.
That's a good point, though, is most of the time it is the asshole people with the person.
I don't care. I hate the person whose birthday it is.
I'll give them a little bit of leeway. I'm not quite there on hate.
I hate them. I don't hate them, but I don't like them. And look, I could the birthday song for Ryan's. Can you sing it?
Birthday. It's your when I die, bury me inside a Lewis store.
I wish that was it.
When you die, bury me inside a buffet.
Oh
no!
Do that for me.
Honestly, yeah, I'd be into that. Okay, no, happy birthday from all of us to you. Hey, happy birthday from the Ryan's crew. Woo! Something I don't remember the second verse.
You were very close. Happy birthday. We're so glad you came. Happy birthday from the Ryan's gang. We're so glad. We hope you are too. Happy birthday from the Ryan's crew.
I got like a third of it.
That was perfect. Good job.
Well, thank you. I never had my birthday there, but fair enough.
But you didn't have to because everybody else was getting sung to.
Well, and that's a good point. I did go there around my birthday once and had a ton of anxiety that my sister or mom or somebody had told them.
Yep.
I was like sweating bullets, but I didn't. Thank God. But you brought up Ryan's.
There's one more.
What? I was getting ready to say one of them, but which one are you thinking of?
Oh, say it. Let's see if it's the same one.
OCB. Old Country Buffet.
Oh my God, that isn't the one, but you're right. I ate an Old
Country
I'm fucking
right.
I ate there 2 years ago, got massive food poisoning.
I didn't even know there was any still in existence. That was the one that we went to the most growing up, more than Ponderosa, more than Ryan's, was Old Country Buffet, and I would get so much chocolate milk from there. So I don't know why I did it anyway, because I get chocolate milk at school.
It hits harder there. I don't know what it is. What cows they're getting that from.
I remember because the lever was so heavy on the thing that the milk came out, and it was so cold. But I'd do that, and then I'd also get a Coke or Sprite. I would get Sprite with it, which reminds me of just how much of my eating was like a human rights violation, just like watching it happen. Because, and I told you, I replied to something you put on Twitter on Ponderosa. It wasn't just Ponderosa I did this, but I would go, and so my parents would be like, you can only have like one bowl of ice cream, which is a perfectly legitimate thing for parents to say to a child. But because it's so good, they had an ice cream bar. Mm-hmm. And what I would do is I'd have that bowl, but then I'd go up my second bowl would be the public bowl, the one in front of my parents. The first one, because then it wasn't as believable to go get the second one and eat in the bathroom. So I went up like I was going to get a second plate of food, and I went and I made myself a bowl of ice cream, and I went to the bathroom to eat it because I wanted to, goddammit, and I was going to get to.
We do have kind of the same idea, but yours is grosser. my idea.
I'm fine with, you know what? I own it. Whatever. There was nowhere else to eat it.
Well, this is what I would do. So obviously, like, there are multiple kids. There's 4 kids in my family at the time. So my mom has to watch the other 3. So I go up and I can get ice cream. And, she would obviously say the same thing because, my cholesterol at that point is through the roof. She's like, 1 bowl and that's it. So what I would do is usually there were like 4 or 5 bowls out, right? I would take those bowls and I would walk them to the salad bar and I would set them down. And then I would walk back with a plate and I would fill my plate with ice cream. And just the worst stuff. I'd get back to the table. My mom would go, I said 1 bowl. And I would tell her, go look, there are no bowls. I did what I had to do. Work on it every time.
You did what you had to do. That's the story of the buffet. All right, name the last buffet, and then we got to move on.
What is it? Well, crap. Hold on.
You don't even know the name? Western
Wait,
Sizzlin'?
No, I literally had it in my head, and I was so happy because Taylor and I talked about this today, about what this was her dad's favorite. Shoot, what's that thing called? USA Steak Buffet. USA Steak Buffet. Did you
I don't
ever
think
go
I've ever
to
been to one.
Clarksburg, West Virginia had one.
We never
One
went to Clarksburg.
wonderful place. You walk in, okay, you smell the steaks. It's like Outback Steakhouse, but they just keep feeding you. It's
Oh,
like,
I looked up a picture. I've seen this before.
mhm.
God, I don't remember where. I think it was somewhere like close to Nashville.
But now there's a reason why they're out of business because they just gave you too many steaks.
That is not possible. Oh,
They
I
can
guess from a
afford it.
financial standpoint, that's stupid from them. I thought you meant you.
But anyway,
you were,
I felt like that was something that needed to be brought up.
That's fair. That's a good point. That's a good point. I think, and speaking of USA Steak Buffet, our announcements this week. We have new stuff in the merch store. We've got a new shirt. It says unapologetically Appalachian as fuck, except it says AF. Don't worry. Don't worry. And it's there. And we're going to be putting some new stuff out probably next week. So I'll link to it in the show notes. Great stuff. Our exclusive this week is going on our Patreon, by the way. I should mention that. Is going to be how to properly navigate a buffet. We're just so into buffets this week. We can't stop talking about them. Maybe it's because this coronavirus pandemic has robbed us of our ability to go to a buffet, and that makes us sad. Makes me sad. So I don't know. We're gonna channel that that positive energy into something for you on our Patreon. Go check it out. We're also gonna be publishing the second part of the Flatwoods Monster exclusive on Patreon, $10 tier and above. Go check that out too. It'll be up this week. Oh well. Anyway, moving on to the topic at hand today. John, when this comes out, it'll be the day after, I think, International Women's Day, honoring the contributions of women around the world. We decided that we would honor the contributions of one of the greatest women to ever come out of the great region of Appalachia, Dolly Parton. Love it. This has been a long time in the making, I would say. We've talked about Dolly a lot on the show, tweeted a lot about her, expressed our gratitude in the form of shirts. Raise hell, praise Dolly. Stand by that. And we think that it's time to time that we properly go over some of her more important contributions, both to society and to Appalachia. We're going to hit on a few. She's got her resume, her repertoire, her life is way too expansive and impressive for us to even try to cover all of it. So we're not going to do that. We're just going to hit on some of the more important ones that we think. But John, your thoughts going into this episode?
I thought about this a lot because, we're
Thank
doing an
God.
episode on it. And to be honest, I wasn't sure what I could say that we hadn't said, but then I thought of something. When I was a kid, I have to admit, I didn't know who Dolly Parton was. I really didn't. It's not a joke. I had no idea who she was. My mom didn't talk about Dolly Parton. My mom's not, she's not in Appalachia. She is now because she's lived here for so long, but she's from Connecticut. Dolly Parton, also, if you know my mom, she's like, she's not really into mainstream music. So maybe that's why she didn't talk about Dolly very much. I don't know.
She's very underground, was very much a pure volume person.
She was with Dre before everybody else was.
Yeah, she was with him when he was in World Class Wrecking Crew.
Yeah, I mean, she still has it. She still listens to it every day.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, she's indie as fuck.
Yeah, we bought her a Hulu so she could have 8 Mile on repeat.
Not the least indie thing, but that's hilarious. Though.
I did walk into my mom's house today, and she was watching the final round of the PGA Tour. My mom's never hit a golf ball in her life, but she has 4 channels, so she just picks whichever one she can get through.
Says a lot about the excitement on the other 3.
True. Anyway, Dolly Parton, she deserves my full attention. What I was going to say is I didn't know much about her growing up. I obviously didn't know, how great of a public figure she was, but I can honestly say now that I will die knowing that Dolly Parton is the true queen. I will die knowing that now.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Suck it, Queen Elizabeth.
Who?
the Queen of England.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, well,
I've
sorry,
only heard
you
of.
know.
I literally have only heard of Appalachia.
You know what? She's never heard of Bonanza or Ponderosa, so who really has it worse off?
How could you? Well, it's not fair for me to say, but yes, it is. If you've never gone to a Ponderosa, honestly, you are not living.
I can't disagree with that. So I will. I don't have a way of communicating with the Queen of England, but I'm sure that she. Okay, well, so I'm gonna hit you with some quick facts just out of the gate here to highlight some of her impressive contributions. 51 studio albums she's recorded. 51. That's insane, including 47 solo. Best-selling female country music artist of all time. She exists in 16 separate halls of fame, including the Nashville Country Music Hall of Fame. Nominated 382 times for various awards, and of those has won 189 times. 21 of her singles and albums released have gone gold or platinum, according to RIAA. 25 songs reached number one on the Billboard Hot Country. She has 862 entries in the U.S. Copyright Office database. Thought that was interesting. And finally, fun fact, she is the godmother of Miley Cyrus. Thought that was interesting. John, those are pretty cool. John, one of the reasons why we like Dolly so much, and I don't want to say relate to because we're not multi-platinum million-dollar recording artists, but her story, her Appalachian story, is one that I think people can relate to because she had incredibly humble beginnings. And a lot of people, I think, that know her for her music, which, to your point earlier, I didn't really listen to her growing up either. My parents didn't really. I honestly didn't come to really know much about Dolly Parton until I moved to Nashville in Tennessee, which is where she's from. So that's kind of where I started learning more about her. But she's had really humble beginnings. She grew up dirt poor, as she said. That's a direct quote from her, in Locust Ridge, Tennessee, which is like not. I think it's an unincorporated community outside of the Great Smoky Mountains in Sevier County, Tennessee. The fourth, John, of 12 children, was raised in a 2-room cabin with no electricity, no running water. In fact, I thought this was an interesting fact. Her father paid the doctor who delivered her with a bag of cornmeal. So that is, I think that's as humble gets. And one thing I wanted to point out, because this is something also I think a lot of Appalachians can relate to. I know I can, is like how hard working parents are. You've mentioned this about your mom a lot. Her dad, who was an incredibly important figure in her life, which we'll kind of touch on a little bit, was someone that I think, just judging based on my reading and what I've read and interviews I've seen with her, is someone that was a really important figure for her and instilled in her a really hard work ethic. She had this one quote that I related to a lot because it reminded me of my dad. She said, and this is in Dolly's words, so, just talks like Dolly. Our sweet daddy worked so hard for all of us. At night, we used to take turns rubbing his cracked, hardworking hands with corn silk lotion because he had worked so hard that day. And he came home with these just dry, cracked hands. And I can remember my dad coming home with similar issues, and like how his hands had just like grease like coated into the fingerprints on his hands. And I think this is something that's kind of like a theme in her life, and certainly something that's come out in her music. But John, I don't know about you, but this is something that I really appreciate about Dolly, because a lot of what she talks about and a lot of her philanthropy, which we'll talk about, is centered around where she grew up, because she never really forgot about where she came from and the humble beginnings that she had.
Joe Manchin. Oh, sorry. No, Dolly is one of those people. I know that people like to pick and choose. Like, you can cancel anybody. You can find flaws in anybody that you want. If Jesus was alive today, Twitter would find a flaw. I mean, without a doubt.
They find flaws even though he's not alive.
That's true. And it's just one of those things, like, I know that there are people who dislike Dolly. I disagree with them. I think that obviously Dolly is not perfect. No one claims that Dolly is perfect, but Dolly does a lot of really good work, and she's one of the only people that I can truly say has not forgotten where she came from. Because Chuck, she never left.
Yeah.
She dedicated herself to her community. She dedicated herself to helping the Appalachian region. Look, there is nothing when you make it big. There's no contract that you sign that says that you have to help anybody at all. There's nothing. You get to keep anything you want. You could keep all your money. You could never say anything nice about anyone. You could never open up like Dollywood and hire a bunch of people. Yeah, we can talk about wages. I get that, but that also created jobs. You could do all of these things. You could stay to yourself. But she didn't. She's donated so much money. Shit, she's the reason I have shot one of a vaccine. Right? Like that's without her, who knows? Because she donated money to help. These are the things that people like to ignore when they quote poke holes in Dolly's background. Dolly's one of the few people that I will go as far as saying that she hasn't become too big for her britches, as my grandparents would say.
Yeah, and I think she's played her hand very smart, very intelligently. I almost said smartly. I don't really. Is that a word?
I think so.
Okay, well, whatever. She played it well. She's made $500 million, and again, like you said, there's no obligation for her to do anything with that, other than what she wants to do with it. But to your point, there are flaws with everyone, and I think it's a small minority of people that don't like Dolly Parton. That's fine. You can disagree. What I think is important is highlighting someone that has objectively had a positive impact on Appalachia, and someone who is a rich person that has done good things with their money. I think it's something where, and like I said, we'll get into some of her philanthropy, but she didn't have to do any of that. And there's a lot of people that have money that donate, but what the reason why I think Dolly is such an interesting and compelling person is that it all fits back into that not forgetting where you're from and wanting to lift people up from where she's from, and more so than that. And that's that builds into a discussion about what she's actually done, which is, and this is something that I didn't know about until I moved to Tennessee, is the Imagination Library. And this comes back to her dad being a really important figure in her life. So her dad, she said, was, one of the smartest people she knew, but he never learned how to read and write. So he was illiterate, because I think the way the story goes is when he was younger, he had to just work. Like he didn't really have time to get like a formal schooling. It sounded like he had to go and work in the farm and I think he was a sharecropper and all kinds of things. So he never actually learned how to read. And she said when she started Imagination Library, it was to honor her dad. Her dad was so smart, but felt crippled with the fact that he couldn't read and write. And so what she did is she started Imagination Library, which is a book gifting program that mails free, high-quality books to children from birth to age 5, no matter how much money you make. So you could be dirt poor or you could be well off. They're going to mail you a book because it doesn't matter to her. And so by 2003, they'd mailed over 1 million books, which is an insane amount. And it started out with her just doing it locally in Sevier County, because she wanted people where she was from to be able to learn how to read. And one way of doing that is providing them with materials to be able to learn how to do that. So I thought that it's a really, really great program. And it's something that I think is both personal to her, but also something that is really impactful in people's lives. I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, my mom really emphasized reading, like a lot, to the point where if I read 50 books in a summer, she was going to buy me the new Pokemon Game Boy game. And by God, John, I read 50 books that summer.
Nice.
I don't know if you had a similar experience about reading, but...
Well, no, I hated reading. I thought it was terrible. I did it only when I was bribed. So that I do, I guess, have that similar portion of it. Like accelerated reader. Now I went to town on that, but I also am guilty of just taking tests without reading.
I mean, we've all done that.
I did it when Harry Potter came out, passed the first one, didn't read it, passed the first one, got all those points. That's all I cared about.
I
But
took
anyway,
the test on Moby Dick because it was the highest point book that you could take it on, and I failed the shit out of that.
Samesies.
Never read that book.
Never. Why would you?
But well, on a serious note, though, I think Imagination Library is such a good thing, and it's something where it's not just throwing money at something; it's a targeted purpose with a philanthropic program. And she did it because she wanted kids to have what her dad couldn't have, and I think that was really cool. And one thing she said, her dad I think died in 2000, but she had started it, I believe it was like 98 maybe, and she wanted him to at least be a part of it, and he was. And so she said that he got to live long enough to hear the kids call her the book lady, and that really meant a lot to her, which I thought was really kind of a beautiful thing.
I will never understand how people don't see Dolly as a really good person. I mean, it just blows my mind. Again, those aren't her kids. She didn't have to do that. And
No.
The fact is, you know what she could have done? She could have been like a lot of people, which I don't want to call out like professional athletes because I love sports, but I'm going to call out professional athletes, right? So instead of going and buying, instead of creating this great, thing for kids because of her dad, right? She dedicated that to her dad. Now there are athletes that do this. LeBron James he started a school. Don't get me wrong, but there are also a lot of athletes who would simply buy their parents a house, for instance, and that would be like what they would do, and that'd be like how they give back to their parents, which is great. But Dolly Parton was like, wait a second, I can take my dad's legacy, the person that I love the most, who I respect the most, and who I want to make proud before he passes away, and instead of just give him everything monetarily, I'm gonna create this foundation that changes people's lives every single day, and I'm gonna dedicate it to him, and that's gonna create change even whenever both of us are gone.
Yeah. You make it, and it's funny that you mentioned that because she also bought him a nice brand new truck because it was what he always really wanted. So I thought it was cool too. But
you know what? But she didn't stop there.
Right. Well, I don't think it changes your point because that's something that probably I think, and I'm not like inferring things. I think this was also written about, is that I think it was something that probably meant the world to him that she did that. There also was a really cool story because there was a statue built of her in her hometown in Sevierville. And I guess after he had died, I can cut this out, but after he had died, she was talking to one of her brothers and sisters, and they were cleaning out his stuff, and they found like an old bucket. And she's like, "What is that for?" And they're like, "Oh, like he took this every night and went over and cleaned the statue off because like pigeons would sit on it and they'd poop on it. So he went there every night and cleaned the statue first so it'd be clean in the morning." What a fucking guy! Like, a great insane story. Yeah.
Wow.
That's cool. But anyway, so one of the other things I wanted to mention about her with just giving back to her community and like in a real way is, and the Imagination Library is part of the Dollywood Foundation, which she created in 1988. And the whole idea of it was to inspire children in her home county to achieve educational success. That's kind of like her MO, is to help people back where she's from. And so this was an incredible statistic. There was a pretty high dropout rate in the Sevier County High School, I guess is what it was. It was I think it was the high school that she graduated from. And so initially she focused the foundation on decreasing the dropout rate in the high school. And so in the early 90s, Dolly promised every 7th grade and 8th grade student she would personally give them $500 if they graduated from high school. So you started planting that in their heads at 7th and 8th grade. The effort, it came to be known as the Buddy Program, reduced the dropout rate for those two classes of students from 35% to 6%.
There's only one time in history that I can say that those statistics were beat from, high school dropout to high school graduation based off one promise. There's only one time I could think of. I don't know if you've ever heard of this foundation. I think it was around 2000 and, I don't know, 2006, 7, no, maybe 2009, whatever. It was called Scott's Tots.
Oh my god. I was just about to say, like, I think I've heard of that. And I'm like, God damn it. It's a reference to The Office from John.
He promises this whole class that if they graduate, he'll pay for their colleges. There's a guy who makes $50,000 a year. He can't pay for anything. So he gives them laptop batteries.
Thankfully, that was not what the Dollywood Foundation did.
True. They all graduated.
Jesus. Well, right. That's what matters. Yeah, no, that was funny. Well, the other thing I was going to say is that she also established a $15,000 scholarship awarded annually at each high school where she's from for students who, quote, have a dream they wish to pursue and who can successfully communicate their plans and commitments to realize their dreams. And I think that through all this, what's so interesting and important, I think, just really speaks to the kind of person she is it's all purposefully done. It's not just like, I'm going to do a scholarship just for the hell of it. It's because she wants people to dream like she dreamed and realize that you can come from a 2-room cabin with no electricity to the most profitable female country music star in the history of the world. And so that's impressive. And I think it's worth highlighting. And the name Dollywood, by the way, we should mention Dollywood being the theme park that is in Pigeon Forge that you alluded to earlier, that she didn't create, but she bought a controlling interest in, I believe, and then changed it and kind of like obviously made it Dollywood, the theme of it and everything. And she did mention that one of the reasons why she wanted to do that is another impact she wanted to leave on her community was to be able to do something that could help people long term, which would be to create jobs. And that's certainly a good way to do it. Now, and like you said, there's always people that will say, well, the wages aren't high enough. And that may be a very legitimate thing. And it's also a problem in this entire country. And that's fine. She's not a perfect person. And so that's worth, pointing out. But your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to get down that rabbit hole, but look, who else doesn't have very high wages, Chuck? Walmart.
Target. Well, the Walton family also is terrible people, but
no, that was my point. Is like, look at what that family has done for people. Nothing. Like they have fake foundations that they just roll tax money through, but they don't care about people. Like they've made that very obvious, and they've continued to do that. And that's why, what is it? 40% of their entire workforce is on government assistance. I don't know the statistics behind Dollywood, but I would venture to guess it's not that. Plus somebody who has, I would say, 1/1000th of the, maybe more. I don't know. 1/500. I don't know math, but she does not have anywhere close to the amount of money they do. And
she didn't have any Walton money.
And she's still doing far more. That's sad. That is extremely sad based off that family, but she's still trying.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, she's really put her money deliberately into her community because her community was a poorer community in Appalachia and one that has a lot of potential and that is a really wonderful place too. Sevier County, Knox County, that area is so beautiful, but it is part of Appalachia and one that economically has struggled a lot. So, it's important to put that also into context too. One last thing I wanted to bring up about her, and then we can kind of just talk generally, is there was, this was back in 2016. And actually this is a, sort of a Dolly experimenting with UBI a little bit, Universal Basic Income in a way, is that in 2016, there was these huge fires. I don't know if you remember this, but they swept through the Smoky Mountains and just like destroyed a bunch of places in Sevier County and Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg, essentially shut that entire tourism economy down for a while. Like the fires were so horrible. So you can look up some of the videos from them. They look like freaking Dante's Peak. It was terrifying. And so a lot of families, over 1,000 families lost their homes, right? So what she did is she established a fund called the My People Fund, where she started. I think she put some money into it, and then the fund itself raised money as well. But she was able to give $1,000 per month for 6 months to families who lost their primary residence. So, and that's an important distinction, by the way, primary residence. It wasn't necessarily given to people who had a vacation home in the Smoky Mountains. It was to people who lived there and made their life there. $1,000 per month for 6 months, which was sure a huge deal for those people. And the fund itself ultimately raised over $411 million, which is a lot of money.
And if you've been keeping track at home, the federal government hasn't even allowed people to have $1,000 a month for 6 months.
Exactly. And there's been plenty of people that have lost their homes in the United States in the past year because of coronavirus and everything else, their jobs,
and lost their family members. I mean, like the fact is, like, Dolly Parton, as this one person, has proven that she is more effective, more willing to give, and is able to streamline it better than the entire United States Congress has over the last year. That blows my mind. That Dolly Parton should walk into Congress and say, if I can do this, why can't you? But you know what? She won't, because she's too nice, because Dolly Parton is a saint in my book. The fact is, like, she should be the threshold that Congress looks at, or even some of these politicians who are arguing for like UBI or even arguing just for better stimulus checks. They should point to that. In my opinion, like, look, Dolly Parton has nowhere near the money of the United States, right? We get that. But she was able to successfully do this, help these people get out of this terrible situation, and we're arguing over $1,400? What are we doing?
It's ridiculous, and well, I'm sure we'll have some stuff to say about that. But yeah, it's stupid, and but it shows that, like, you know, somebody with money stepped and actually made a difference. And if we had more people doing that, if we had more people that actually had money doing that and helping, then it would be less devastating when the government comes and says, we're only giving you $1,400. If freaking Jeff Bezos did that and actually, you know, did something good with his money like that, that could, you know, change the lives of a lot of people. But here we are. Anyway, I wanted to point that out because
he can't even sing.
Well, I mean, I can't sing, but
no, I'm just saying. Dolly Parton beats him in every aspect.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. So there you go. There you have it. I mean, that's, you know, those were the things I wanted to highlight about Dolly. I mean, obviously she funded money for the Moderna vaccine. And she's, you know, I'll also say this, in times where she's had to make a correction, she's done it. And one of the criticisms that people bring up is she had this dinner theater called Dixie Stampede and Pigeon Forge, and obviously Dixie is sort of a name that conjures up a lot of bad things about the Civil War South, and it was a Civil War themed attraction, and they've made changes to that. They changed the name. I believe that it's no longer what it used to be with the North and the South, because, you know, she faced criticism for it, rightly so, and decided to make that change. And, you know, nobody's perfect, and she did it. And there you go. I mean, we're not all absolved of our wrongdoings or our mistakes along the way, but I think, you know, when it comes to criticism about her or stuff like that, she makes the correction because that's what she does, because she's a human with a soul. That's all I want. I'm probably cut that part out because that's just me rambling bullshit. But.
Keep it, because I'm gonna expand on it. I'm gonna take heat for this, okay? I feel like I say that every episode now, but I trust me, people are not gonna like this.
You're eventually going to be taking heat for something.
People don't like when this is said, but let's look at the reality of things, okay? When Dolly Parton was growing up and whenever she was becoming successful, it was a far different time than what it is now. A lot of things were different. Like the word Dixie, for instance, was a lot different than what we look at it as now, because I believe now we're a much more educated society. But at that time, that's not what was going on. Now, fast forward to 2021. She said, you know what? I have to learn because you're right. We've now developed into a different type of society. We're now more educated. We are changing the way that things need to be done. I messed up like that. She takes full credit for it. She does the changes she needs. Now, I should say, I'm not saying all 70-year-olds do that. My mom is 70 years old and she would never do that in terms of spitting in face or calling somebody a racist name. But I'm just saying, like, her response could have been a lot different. If you, I mean, look at James Woods. I mean, that's a dude that he's never been.
Yeah, that's definitely a different way of responding.
Right. Like, he just got worse. And that's what a lot of people have done, but Dolly hasn't. Dolly could have put her feet in the ground. She could have said, nope, that's not what it means. You know, I'm keeping it the way it is. You know, I'm not advancing. She didn't do that. She took one on the chin. She said, look, I did this wrong. I shouldn't have done this. I'm changing it now because I've learned that this is wrong and I'm moving on. And to me, that takes a big person, because I know for a fact, like, if somebody just walked up to me, or if there was an article written about me that said, you know, something that I did was wrong and maybe I didn't see it that way, I don't know if I'd be as ready to jump on the other side of things. But she was, because she's a big person.
Yeah. And I think she understands, you know, the context of things like that, and isn't someone who's afraid to admit a mistake or admit that they need to change something. And I think we need more people like that just in general. And I've tried to be more like that. I've tried to take ownership for when I make mistakes just in general in life. And I feel like if more people did that, we'd live in a better society. Just in general.
If people were more willing to look at themselves, and it's a two-way street, right? Like Twitter and outsiders and keyboard warriors now are very willing to rip people down. But I think there's also that other side of things where people have now become so entrenched in their ways that they think that it's the only right way. So we're at this weird impasse where, like, people want to rip you down and you're doing everything you can to make sure that they know what that you don't care what they're saying. And I think that is this, you know, where we are in the society. Dolly Parton hasn't become part of that. She's not toxic. She hasn't become, you know, part of that toxic environment. Look, another 70-year-old I should mention, Donald Trump. I mean, I could continue to go on, but, you know, and you can't tell me, like, oh, well, it's this upbringing, because if you look at the stereotypical upbringing that Dolly Parton would have gone through, you would have said that she would think like Donald Trump. Guess what? She doesn't. She's proven that. She's proven that she's much bigger person than Donald Trump, but she's also proven that she's a much bigger person than a lot of people. And so, to me, I don't think a lot of this quote unquote backlash from some people is fair. I think it's misguided hate that's being used for clicks because people don't have enough to talk about, and they know that there are people on you know, at one end of the spectrum who think like that and who are going to click on that. They're going to watch the YouTube video. They're going to turn on the podcast. They're going to read the article, even though 79% of the rest of the people look at Dolly and say, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that is true. But, you know, I think that's a good place to cap off our discussion about Dolly.
I do have one random fact, though, that I have to tell you.
Okay, let it rip.
Dolly Parton. She entered a Dolly Parton lookalike contest and lost. Did you know that?
You're going to finish who she lost to?
It was a drag contest.
Yeah, it was like a guy, wasn't it?
Yeah. So Dolly went in. She kind of like exaggerated her looks. You know what I mean? Like she made her hair different and stuff like that. But she lost, and it's
pretty funny.
I mean, that to me is nuts. Could you imagine?
I would be pretty upset if I lost a lookalike contest for myself.
Could you imagine that? Like, you walk in, all right, today's the Chuck Cora lookalike contest, and you don't win.
Yeah, I'd be pissed.
At that point, I think through my head, I'd be like, wait a second. Have I gotten like uglier, or have I gotten like worse looking? Have I gotten so bad that people don't recognize me?
It's possible.
Which are all very possible things in my case. I mean, listen, half of our listeners think I'm 45.
That's fair. I mean, you do kind of,
No, you can't. You can't see it. That's not true.
Whatever.
I am 28. I am 28. I'm the
He's
youngest person on
28,
this
ladies and
podcast.
gentlemen.
I'm the youngest person on this podcast. I may look like the oldest, but I'm the youngest.
I've gotten a lot of static on your end.
I'm not even near anything. I moved everything.
I know. I don't know. Maybe it's just what I'm hearing. I'm not sure.
The thing that I read is that there some people had to return their mics because of that issue. So I don't know.
It didn't really come through on the Google recorded thing though last time, so I don't know what the issue was.
Weird. Okay, well, moving on.
I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, that's all. So I think that's a good way to end our discussion on Dolly, Queen Dolly, raise hell, praise Dolly. That's, we're just going to live by that, and that's how it is.
Chuck, I had a really long beef planned out, okay? But I'm going to revert that. You can go check out Twitter. I'm sure I'm tweeting about it right now. It has to deal with Joe Manchin, and you probably heard about it enough and seen him talking on every Sunday morning show that he could get his hands on. So go check it out on Twitter. I'm sure I'm making jokes, or at least the Appalachia Twitter account is. But I did want to say I got my first shot of the Moderna, the Jolene vaccine is what we call it here at Appalachia. Look, I didn't have any side effects, but I will say I did have a headache. I'm not calling that a side effect because I don't know if it is. My wife got it. She has a big lump on her arm. So I will warn you of that. But would I have taken it if I knew all of that? Yes. Will I get the second dose? Yes. I think everybody should. I'm still advocating for that. Hopefully you have access to it, or you're going to get access to it. But that's about it, Chuck. I just wanted to bring that up. Wanted to let people know about what's going on. But really, I think that was a solid episode. You're on mute.
I agree, and I'm glad that you got the vaccine. That's great. Very jealous, in fact. I'll take the J&J. I mean, I like the Jolene vaccine, but I'll take the J&J. But that's great. Glad that you and your wife have it. It's very good to hear. And appreciate Dolly throwing some money at that. But we hope that you all enjoyed this episode. We'll be back next week with more Appalachia. Check us out online on the social medias and wherever podcasts are found.